care about. Like, I mean, the Flash stuff is like, you're gonna see it, but
no. I mean, when I say all the other stuff, I mean the stuff that's not the Flash.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
in
yeah,
the Flash
yeah.
movie,
Exactly.
I want to see all the other stuff that's not the Flash.
Yep, exactly. I mean, it's the same with the Black Adam movie. If they would have not made it the Black Adam movie and they did this, it would have been way better. They tried to do that with Justice Society, and it kind of worked some places, but in general,
some spots it worked, but most of it didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I like Dr. Fate. That was awesome. Hawkman was aight.
Yeah, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate was some genius casting.
Yeah, that was great.
I would not have pieced that together.
But
Aldous Hodge was completely disrespected throughout that movie.
Such disrespect.
Well, I mean, they didn't give him his full Thanagarian power, so
yeah, that was my thing too. That they depowered him so much.
Made it as a suit and weaponry, but like if you do the full Thanagarian backstory, then that fight is a little different.
Yeah, you might actually get something out of that character.
Oh, Black Adam wouldn't have put him down like that.
No.
Nah.
One hit, even if he tried to catch that mace in hand.
Well, the Ninth Metal is
can hurt someone of his caliber.
Yeah.
Well, you're right, because it negates magic.
Yeah, exactly.
And so Black Adam,
if nothing else, they could have done that.
Magic. Yeah, he could literally knock
super strength, everything. Yeah,
he could with that Nth Mace and whatever. Nth Metal and the Mace and his superhuman strength, he could fucking knock Black Adam's ass out.
Yeah,
especially again considering that the weapon itself, the metal itself, is specifically designed to negate magic, and all of his powers is from magic.
Yeah, I remember reading something where, like, I think he tried to flex on Shira, and Shira cracked him in the ribs. He was like, "Did I just break a rib?"
Yeah, because it breaks right through that magic shit. It breaks right
he
through.
He was like, "Yo, that actually hurt. What is that thing?"
Yeah, but that's sort of been how they've been doing, like, the Hulk for years. Like, they either go full Thanagarian or none at all.
Yeah. Yeah, true. It's either all or nothing. They either like go like a full on like power level, or they just let that shit go.
Yo, Treat Williams passed away.
Yeah, I saw that. Mark Hamill's Mark Hamill's thing.
Oh man.
Yeah, man. That's one of those character actors from the day, man.
Yeah, man. Going too soon, man.
I remember he was in
the 60s too, right?
He's in 71, I think I saw. Still not, just barely hitting the 70s.
Ah, damn.
Yeah, he was 71, yeah.
71, yeah.
Yeah, I remember he was in this really bad monster movie in the 90s with Famke Janssen. That was like one of the first things I saw him in. It was called was it Deep Rising or something? They were playing like thieves that they end up on this luxury yacht, and there's a freaking kraken that's like, its tentacles is like moving through the ship, eating people, grabbing people up, and they reveal the big monster at the end. I remember Treat Williams being in that movie.
Yeah, he's been in a ton of B movies.
That was back when B movies used to get like theatrical releases and shit.
Oh yeah, like that was like trailers and posters.
That was 1998. It was
jeez.
It was him, Famke Janssen, Wes Studi.
Wow, Wes Studi, another good character actor.
Yep, it was a bunch of people in that movie, and I remember it because my dad loved those horror movies, like those B monster movies like that, and I remember we watched it randomly. I remember seeing the trailers for it, but yeah, he was the what do they used to call him in Hollywood, the leading man in that movie. That was the first thing I saw Famke Janssen in too.
Oh wow.
Yeah. That was a bomb. They made that movie for $45 million. It made $11.2 million in US.
Oh.
That's why you didn't see a lot more Treat Williams led movies. Because again, this was back when they was in the 90s. The B movies stepped up and they started getting big time theatrical releases. This was one of them.
But yeah, that's
so what are we doing?
We're doing Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse. Cross
Spider-Verse. I'm one-manning. Am I one-manning Rise or no?
Maybe do it in your final word or something.
Okay.
I was gonna say I thought about Cam because of Gwen and the relationship between Gwen and Miles. I was like, oh man, the she-devil got him. And then I was like, and it played out exactly how I was like, did Cam write this movie?
Yeah. There's a couple other like I was trying to look at some of the content online on IG for different people. Yeah. One chick in her dumb ass fucking reachings, she was like, yo, Miguel was being racist to Miles because he's Afro-Latino and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what the fuck? And then right when I said, what the fuck? A Stitch came in and the dude was like, another dude just came in out of nowhere. First of all, this is fucking stupid. I don't know how people keep tagging me in this, but let me settle it for sure. The reason why I hate it, like he just broke down the whole thing, but that shit was hilarious. Like,
yeah, that was that. I didn't get none of that.
So that's what I'm saying. And then it was like, oh, we can also bring up. Oh, we'll do it in a delicate way. We can bring up the whole trans reaching thing as well. Have you heard of that one?
What with the poster in Gwen's room?
Yeah. So supposedly the internets are taking Gwen's journey of her with talking to her dad and how she doesn't fit in and blah, 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 to be herself and yada, 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 as like an allegory for like a trans person transitioning, yada, yada, yada. And it's like
a stretch. I can see that.
It's a stretch, but it's just like, yo, I think that's will be my main thing. It's just like sometimes people can you just like watch the movie?
Can it just be the thing that it is?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah, I didn't see that either, but I
only caught it. I only caught it because I watched New Rockstars does really good like Easter egg breakdowns. Like they go molecular with their breakdowns, and they find everything in every frame of every film, and they will correlate it to a bunch of different things. They'll do background research and be like, yeah, the director, blah, 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 or the animator, blah, the person who animated that particular scene, blah, 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 blah. Like they know everything officially. It's retarded how granular they can get with Easter eggs. So I only caught that and only knew that because I saw, and he was, and I love how dude who hosts the podcast, he was like, yep. So, Gwen, and you can see that Gwen has a pro-trans poster in her bedroom. And before any of you nerds get at me, got to tell you, I support it. So you can unfollow if you want. And he kept it moving.
Yeah, exactly.
He was like, y'all can unfollow me all the way.
Yeah, like shit like that, where I'm like, they're just like, they had so much fun with the Easter eggs and all that. But
they went bonkers with the Easter eggs, bro. Oh, my God.
So as you guys have seen, we've all were discussing Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. As always, this is your man Cam. With me is
this is Spider-Man 2099 plus one, aka Josh,
as well as
this your unfriendly podcasting professor.
He is he's here to tone down the temperature as me and Josh geek out at the best movie of the year.
Well, I won't dispute that quite just yet. Only because at the moment I can't put anything above it. At least,
well, not yet. Yeah,
not yet.
Oh, so we're in June, so that kind of keeps it pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's certainly going to be in the running. It was a great
film. So we've all seen Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Initial reactions was like holy shit, this is actually fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, not even like, I wasn't even like going over. I was just like, yo, this is really good. Like, they did a really good job. And shout out to Joaquim Dos Santos, who's done some amazing DC animated stuff. He definitely did this thing in this one, and like,
we are all fans of Mr. DeSantos here.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
his work on Justice League Unlimited.
Yep.
What else has he done?
Countless DC.
Other,
a lot of the movies, and he's
the man is filthy.
Yeah, he's a very prolific animator.
He also did The Last Airbender. He did Legend of Korra. He did Voltron. He was a co-director for
the God.
He's the co-director for this one and for the next one too.
Nice.
With Miller and Lord pulling writing and producing duties. But yeah, man, they fucking hit this out the park. Like, I think it was just again, and I think that's the other part that I like that. And it was funny because a couple of my friends were like, yo, that first 15 minutes with Gwen, and then they were like, yo, we're about to get the okie doke. This is about to be a Gwen story. In my mind, I'm like, dude, I trust the process.
Yep. For real. So, I didn't even blink.
I didn't even blink either. And I thought they did a good job of kind of setting it up, of like filling in a couple of gaps from the last one. Because you didn't really know, if you don't know the comics, you don't know too much else of the story of Gwen besides what they show you. So I like that they open with that to kind of just get you a little like, hey, catch up. This is where you're at. This is where it's going on. And then we get to where we're at with Miles. And I thought they did a good job of, bringing in new characters that all had enough meat to like have fun with. And you got into Miguel's character. They gave him some depth and some like hurt and trauma. Then only person I would say was kind of light was the Jessica Drew Issa Rae character. They kind of just threw her in there just because, hey, black woman pregnant on a motorcycle, that's cool.
Yeah, she didn't really have a presence like the rest of them did.
She did from an investigative soldiery standpoint. Like, she was sort of Miguel's right hand.
Yeah, exactly.
You I say and you do, and she's like, all right, cool, no problem. Like, she seems like she's his Spock. Like, she's his number two. Yeah,
and I think I wish they would have gave her maybe just a little bit more, because I didn't care about her too much besides the way she looked. The overwhelming favorite, of course. Oh, before I even get to that part, using Spot, who is kind of like a good C to B level character in the comics,
easy,
and the way they took that B level character, gave him some depth, and it was like, okay, we could actually make something with them. I thought that was a good move, and it also establishes a good bad guy for Miles as opposed to a Peter Parker adjacent bad guy. And then the runaway favorite, Hobie Brown, of course, he was our resident punk socialist in a Disney-fied way.
Yeah, and voiced brilliantly by Daniel Kaluuya.
Yeah. He killed it. Killed that shit. That shit was great. They just did a good job, man. I think when I came, and even in the end, I didn't actually know how they were going to end it. I was actually curious, but as it was kind of progressing, I was like, oh, okay, this is setting up the third. Okay, it makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't realize that at first either. In fact, funny story. Right at the end, I actually went to the restroom because I thought it was more to come. And when I went back in the theater, it was like lights were on and everybody was gone, and including my nephew. And I was like, and then he texted me, he's like, "Oh, I'm outside." I was like, "That was it." And then I realized that it was classic trilogy where you kind of leave a cliffhanger in the second act. Second act being the second film. Because they clearly built up something, and not everything was resolved at the end of that film, and they set it up for obviously the next adventure where they were, beyond the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. And like I said, they just did a good job of just like balancing it all, and then also, once again, we see what happens when a black man falls for the white she-devil.
Hey.
You knew Cam was going to bring that up.
Yo, I'm just saying, there's a pattern, people. Every time.
I started as soon as they started building to it, I was like, oh, this is going to be one of those moments where Brother Cam is going to
eulogize the death of the black man at the hands of a white woman.
You're going to learn today.
Every time.
You did to learn today.
Shout out to my man Jonathan Majors out there in his own little trials.
Hey.
It's all connected, brothers. It's all connected.
Hey. The multiverse lives.
But yeah, no, I just, like I said, I and then even from actually I already talked a lot. Josh, go ahead. Chime in.
I mean, it was, I thought it was impossibly better than the first one. And the first one was incredible. I told the story on the pod before about how they finished half the film, and when Comic-Con rolled around, they Lord Miller and somebody else who worked on the film were a part of the panel with the voice cast. And so, they talked up, what the feel of the movie was going to be, what the vibe of the movie was going to be, how they try to position Miles, being a kid from Brooklyn with a black dad and Latino mom. And just, they really did a good job of positioning it. And at the end, Lord and Miller were like, you know what? We've done enough talking. We talked this up pretty good. I think you guys got a really good idea of what we're trying to do with this film. Want to see it? And people were like, well, yeah, like mild clapping and like, all right, cool, because we finished half of it and we're going to show it now.
Nice.
And they showed half the film up to the cemetery scene where Miles and Peter crash into into a headstone, and they're both like knocked out or whatever. And literally it's the to be continued, and then they go into Peter right before they go into Peter's comic book story origin, explaining why he's in their universe. That's where they ended it, and the place erupted in applause, and people ripped out of their seats, like standing ovation, just completely blown away by how good that thing was. There's not a soul who walked out of that theater not going to see that movie. Everybody, like, there were other things that they showed after that, other movies and other television shows they talked about. Everybody walking out was like, yo, that Spider-Verse joint though. And so, fast forward to when it released, and it blew the doors off of everything else that came out that year. Well-earned Oscar. But I could not have fathomed that they would outdo what they did in the first movie by like a lot. And, like Cam mentioned earlier, it seemed at the beginning like it was going to be a Gwen Stacy movie, but you trust they've earned so much trust with the first movie that I didn't even blink. I was like, all right, this is where we're going, and that's where we're going. And it just the lobby scene. Fast forwarding to the lobby scene, the lobby action sequence was one of the wildest things ever put to film. It was just so phenomenal. It took them 4 years to complete the lobby scene. That's insane. I don't think it's ever taken any animator that long to do anything. Cam, you work in that field more than I do, so you know better than I.
Yeah, I mean
4 whole years, bro.
Yeah, I would say just like even the storyboarding and how like there was everything from like the fight scenes through the how everybody was swinging, plus every person swung in a different way. So like each spider had their own type of swing that was like different, and so they made sure that it came through. And then also like I kind of do agree with D'Angelo. He had said it was like pretty frantic in terms of all the lights and all that stuff kind of coming at you a lot. Mm-hmm. So I could definitely see how people might get a little like might get you a epileptic seizure.
Right? Yeah.
It was definitely colorful.
Yeah. But I think but I would say like overall, I mean, like they did a good job of, because the one thing about the Spider-Verse, I remember when I first was when I first saw the cover for it, the original comic, it was Olivia Coppel did it. He did all the main books, but it was Dan Slott that did it, and the initial kind of pitch of it was kind of like, this doesn't seem that good. And then they actually brought it home into that first book. It was actually pretty dope because the thing about Spider-Verse, the original story, was the best part about Spider-Man is not Spider-Man, it's everyone else. And it's everyone's different takes on the whole spider thing, right? And so I thought they brought that home really well in this one. And so
who was your favorite variant in the book?
I'll probably say Superior Spider, Doc Ock Spider.
Spider-Man was absolutely the best.
Oh yeah, he was probably
made of all the Spider-Man made of all spiders. That was hysterical.
Yeah, well, and I also heard for Spider-Punk, they were basically making a revision of Spider UK, and then Olivier Copiel, dope ass artist, made that design, and then Slott was like, "Oh, you know what? Let's keep that for something else. Let's make him something different, and then we'll just use the old design for Spider UK." And then Spider-Punk was born. And even with Gwen Stacy, like Spider-Gwen, it was just like a design off of one of the as they were making all the spiders. And then I think she only had like a 4-page backup story or some shit like that. But the design was so good that everyone like latched onto her, and I liked it. And they just fleshed out into a whole story. And that first like 24 issues of Spider-Gwen is actually really, really cool. It's actually fun, interesting world. They do a nice crossover with Miles. That's where this comes from. They did a good crossover with Miles and Gwen. And in that book, they basically find out that there's no other variants. There's no Miles and there's no Gwen. But there's multiple variants of Peter Parker and everyone else. And so in almost every story, the Gwen character always dies. So Spider-Gwen's kind of an anomaly herself in the books. And so, but I actually like that in this one, the one that they really didn't explain in the books is where Miles got his powers. Like besides the whole, like he got the same thing, like, comes from an Alchemix lab, bites him, gets spider powers, but that's pretty much it. They didn't really do anything in depth, and I liked in this one that they actually made it have some type of a sense within the Spider-Verse situation. So I like that they're like, oh yeah, you're an anomaly because someone's that spider came from another universe and bit you, so you weren't supposed to get it. So that's why
that Earth doesn't. Earth 42, which is where that spider came from, doesn't have a Spider-Man because that spider bit you.
Mm-hmm.
That was great writing.
Yeah, that was really good.
But I want to talk about the character designs for a second. You hit on like the character design for Gwen. Like the character design for the Vulture was insane, and the I don't know if you caught the little captions in Italian every time he did something.
Oh yeah, yep. That was great when they did for Vulture, and then because what they did with their second Spider-Verse in the comics was they did a whole campaign of like, hey, make your spider persona, so that's how all of these like kind of variants came around. Like people were just, submitting different ones and blah, 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 blah. And then the ones that they chose got to be featured in a book and like, whatever.
Nice.
And so that was a smart way to do it. And then, I think it was Chris Anka. He did a bunch of celebrity ones at that time, and then they brought him in to do character designs for this one. So he designed like the Metro Boomin one and a bunch of those ones. And then that was the other thing I really like.
Metro Boomin on the soundtrack.
Yep. And I like the one. I like that they use a lot of really dope comic book artists to do character design for this. So there was Sanford Green, there was Chris Anka, Nicholas DePrave, I think, and I forgot one of the other cats. There was another black dude. He was on there as well. So they just art wise, like this art book is going to be like the other art book was great, but this one's going to be even more fun just because.
Be insane, I'm sure.
But yeah, man, they just did a really good job. Like it was, and I think D'Angelo, you can speak to more like the story aspects of things and how things kind of played out. But they did. I thought overall they did a pretty good job. They did a pretty good job.
Yeah, the writing was really good. I can't. There wasn't anything that I particularly saw that was bad. I mean, you guys said that you trust the process. I'm not gonna lie. When I first saw the opening and saw where they were going with Gwen, I wasn't so sure. But at the same time, it didn't bother me or make me not want to continue to watch the film. And it was in it of itself was character development, and that's the reason why no matter where it was going, it was working, because Gwen was a character established in the previous film, and they immediately show you the connection that she has and maintains with the film's main protagonist, Miles. And he's important in those scenes, and so he may not have been there, but we still understood where that development was taking us. So overall, I think it was a solid 3 acts. I thought it may have been just a tiny bit too long, but not that much, and it wasn't bothersome or it didn't like. I think that if the traditional animated feature would not have featured that Gwen scene sequence at the beginning, and there you go, that would have given you, shave that 15 minutes off, and you have the average 1 hour 45 or so that the average animated feature runs. But because you had that, it just enhances it, and it puts it kind of a step above most animated features in its effort. I think you guys hit the nail on the had the hammer on the nail when you said that this one will definitely win Oscars as well. It will probably win even more, and I would think that some consideration has to go to how you began to consider the voice acting in these situations.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
Voice actors, well, this probably isn't general knowledge, but for those in the industry, we know that there is awards and different acknowledgments of voice actors, but I think this is more of a kind of a special thing, and you can't deny, the great work that what's the actor that plays Miles?
Shameik Moore.
Yeah, Shameik Moore.
Shameik Moore, Haley Stanfield, Oscar Isaac, Issa Rae. Even though, despite whatever the character's usage, there was a certain gravitas to each of those voices.
They brought him to life in a certain type of way, for sure.
Yeah, Janet Kaluuya did too.
To each one, Shameik Moore is a grown man, but you still feel that teenage angst in his voice. And obviously, there's some post work and things like that that's done to his voice to make him sound more adolescent, but at the same time, the programs and the suites and everything don't add personality and and charisma to a person's voice. That comes from something deeper,
right? From the performer himself,
from the performer themselves. So I think that's this film is gonna, outside of what it did right as far as the comic book world and Spider-Man itself, I think it's going to open up new questions when it comes to the Oscars. And I could see this film winning more than the first film did. So yeah, overall, I have nothing more to add than what you guys covered, but it was a great film, great animated feature, and it was pretty well written too. So I would be interested in seeing the script on paper form.
Yeah, they did. I was also looking up some of the voices for like some of the other random ones. Like Andy Samberg did Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, which was actually pretty damn good.
Great stuff.
I like that when they did captions for people. I was laughing because in the theater when he's talking to his mom and then they're speaking in Spanish, people in the theater were like, I'm in Brooklyn. They're like, yo, what's up with the captions?
God, I miss New York.
Yeah, it was so funny. I was like, and that was another moment where I remember I was like, that's just part of the reason why I like watching movies in New York, because of that. Like, kind of like, the extra sauce that comes with it when people are excited to see a movie, like they go there to enjoy it,
Well, there's no cinema culture like there is in New York. I mean, in New York City, it's vibrant. It makes you want to be in the cinema and do the classic going into the theater because there's that energy in that city all over. Like, there's
100%. I remember like I watched the I watched Endgame in New York, and then I watched it in California. And then when I watched it in New York, like everyone was like in it. We're all watching it. We're cheering or clapping or whatever. And then when I watched it in California, it was just like silence.
Yeah,
I remember you telling me that.
I was like, yo, what? Like nothing?
Yeah, you feel it. I mean, it's they don't call it. It's not referred to affectionately as the Mecca of cinema for no reason.
Yeah. The other notable
American cinema.
Yeah, another notable voice acting was Spider Bite was Amanda Steinberg, and she was on that. And then who else they pull in there?
Happy to see her getting work, man. Under criminally underutilized actress.
I agree. And then and then the other Miles from the Other Earth is dude from Moonlight, the kid.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Jarrell Jerome. That's what it is. I was wondering. Also, shout out to Donald Glover on the cameo. That was pretty. That was clean. That was clean.
That was excellent.
Yeah, that's clean. I like that. It was just enough. You didn't need that much. Just a little bit.
Just needed him to be there for 2 seconds.
And what's great about it is that I like, even if this business relationship between Sony and the MCU is working well for both sides, because that was a total again crossover between those two cinematic universes, and it wasn't much, but it was enough to where if you've been following both the Tom Holland Spider-Man franchise and the animated Sony franchise, that you get that really nice in your face Easter egg, and obviously if you know any deeper, you know that Donald Glover was the first voice actor to voice Miles in a previous, I think it was one of
Spider-Man animated.
The animated.
Sure, I forgot. They have like 17 of those, but yeah,
they got a lot. But I believe he was the very first actor to voice Miles Morales.
Yeah, Mrs. Chen in the Venom movies.
Yeah, that was great.
That was also great.
Yep.
I thought for a second Tom Hardy was going to show up. That would have been insane.
Yeah, that'd have been. I like that they brought in the Spider-Man video game. That was dope too.
That was great. That was great.
Yep. Yeah. The 60s Spider-Man, that was completely out of the blue.
Yeah, it was everything Spider-Man. I mean, there was nothing that they didn't touch that was Spider-Man at some point, some era, some reference to, even referencing like the Indian Spider-Man. And and going full blast with that. I love that, because that's been a big part of Spider-Man culture.
and it felt like authentic. It didn't seem like it was like, it didn't feel like, even the music, when the music changed, and then I thought they did a good job of animating each spider to like their kind of world, so you kind of get a different style for each one.
Yes.
But then when they went
not just style wise, I want to talk to you. I want you to speak to specifically the color palettes. Like when
there was animation style, color palette. Like even with Spider-Punk, right? They did the whole cutout pasty line thingy and all that. You could tell he was just more flat shading and all that stuff, even with the way they did his dreads. And then when they went to Mubatten, which I thought was freaking awesome.
That was hilarious.
I thought that was great. And like you said, even when the music changed and it was, very in like almost like an Indian drill type situation.
Like, but it felt Hollywood,
but it felt authentic. It felt cool. It didn't feel like they were making fun of anything. It was like
or pandering,
or pandering either.
It was legit. Like this is what it would be like if you had a Spider-Man in India. Done.
Yeah, exactly. And not just that, but also embracing and paying homage to Bollywood cinema and that entire industry, and not in any kind of mocking way, but to say again, this is a huge part of cinema, the cinema tapestry that exists, and they seamlessly interwove that into their storytelling. So yeah, it's in the animation. So that's why I say I can't see this not racking up in the Oscars and even causing some debate about whether it should be, it definitely, I'm thinking best original screenplay or something like that, or best adapted
yeah, you
screenplay.
kidding?
Technically, this would be an adapted screenplay.
Adapted, yeah. But I mean, the
Well,
conversation
yeah,
could
'cause
be
it's
had
from
that this could be that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's very comparable to any Disney film that made its mark.
I would
during
be willing to say that it goes beyond anything we've ever seen. I mean,
very much. I'm just saying the difference is, and this is the truth. I don't agree with it, but the comic book aspect of it always causes ruffles in those awards.
Oh yeah, because
versus Disney, where you have a Lion King or Little Mermaid and things like that. These are stories of a different fantasy ilk. That's my point.
Yeah, and I think this year you have and also Pixar has their movie Elemental, which is looking pretty good, but it's it's Pixar, so it's something has feelings. So now we have elements have feelings.
I'm not even going to touch this. I don't even care. I don't even care what it's about. I don't care what else Pixar has up their sleeve for this season. For this year, it's not going to touch this. I mean, dude. So we always talk about how talking to D'Angelo about narrative structure and writing has sort of warped our way of, in a positive way, of watching television and film. I think talking to you, Cam, has sort of tweaked my eyes in terms of like the different animation styles that we were talking about. Like in the beginning with Gwen, like how everything's unfinished and everything like these purple and pink hues that match her suit, but also matched her mood. Like they use the purple, the pink shifts to make blue. And how, like, when she was sad, it was blue in the back. Little subliminal touches that cue you in on the mood of what's happening or what's about to happen were just completely littered throughout that beginning sequence in the first act with her. And then they kind of double down on that in every different environment that you're in. When Miles winds up at the wrong Earth, it's a different color palette, so you immediately know something's off. From his his universe is like a fully fleshed out. It's not pastels. It's not it's what animation should be like. It's sort of mirroring real life, and literally every other place that they went except for the lobby was a different tone, a different style, a different anime. Like the outlines of the characters were thicker or thinner. Like it was just little things that sort of cued you in that you were somewhere other than where you were supposed to be.
Yeah. And that's the point. That was kind of the thing that I liked, that they in the first one they just kind of hinted at that, and in this one they just went all in with it.
Yeah, they doubled down on it.
And I think I like that they did that, because then in the first one, like Spider Noir was always black and white. Everything is like around him was always that level.
Right.
But I think in this one, they really doubled down on it. So every time you went to a different Earth, it completely changed. Like, when they did the cameo with the Spider Lego Man or whatever, Lego, and that was actually really dope too.
And there's a great story behind that. There's a 14-year-old kid who would do different Lego things, and apparently Lord and Miller saw it and was like, yo, we need to reach out to this kid. He's really good. Hit him up, and apparently he did the sequence. He did the Lego sequence during spring break, and addressed any notes that he had after school once school started up again.
It's awesome.
But kid was 14 years old, just throwing up Lego stop motion animation on YouTube.
Yep. See, and I think that's on one end with the fan service of kind of putting in fan favorites and like that kind of stuff, but on the other end of actually reaching the fans and kind of bringing them in, because they had so much fun just throwing every design of some of those like
Against
spider
the wall.
personas against the wall in the backgrounds. The amount of like spider people that had been designed over the last like 5 years, just by literally everyone kind of just putting their own thing. And it's actually cool because the some of the personas are, you know, they're silly, and other ones are actually really, really like thought out and really cool. That's how Spider Bite kind of came into about. But I like that they did a good job of just like the balance of the fan service to actually having a good film and not just making it all set fan service, which we're hearing stories of the Flash coming up, that's coming out. Was it this week now? This weekend?
It's this week.
Or this whatever.
Thursday is
Thursday,
yeah.
So like we're hearing a lot of stories of like that's just a lot of fan service, where this one is a good balance of, you know, fan service, but then also like we're still trying to make a good movie here, guys.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Flash is kind of a dead. Well, I guess they didn't go into it thinking that, but it's a dead end now, at least for a little while.
I think it's a purposed dead end. Like they're making it a dead end so that they can use it to pivot.
Absolutely. I mean, but that don't change the fact that it's a dead end.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, no, they're absolutely using it to pivot towards the gun universe, DC universe, or whatever it's going to be called.
Yeah, whatever it's going to be called.
So the burning question here is: are they going to release another pair of Miles Morales Jordans? That is the most important. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, and given that capitalism hasn't come to a crashing halt since this conversation started, I would assume that that's gonna already in the works. Yeah, I mean that Sony would be crazy not to make as much money off of this, is because it's literally now one of their most successful IPs in the last 10 years. So, you know, they may as well milk it as long as they can, because, you know, I don't think they're ever going to make a really good live action, nothing comparable to this.
Well, as you say that, there is talk that at the end of the third one, that the multiverses will somehow collapse in on themselves or otherwise be corrected, as per what Miguel O'Hara was saying. Spider-Man 2099 was saying about how everything's in chaos and, you know, and splintered and this, that, and the other. Supposedly, the rumor is that there will be the end of the third one will result in a live action Miles Morales,
which will be kind of fun. I mean, I don't need it, but you know, it'll be fun if they do it.
I hesitate to say that it will be fun, because I gotta tell you, unless Feige is involved with this thing, it seems like Sony does not know what to do with them. So, I mean, they did this and they did the first one, but unless Lord and Miller are the ones doing it, I worry. Like, they don't seem to know.
Live action just has another challenge. So
exactly, it's another challenge.
Be the same arena as the animated film. So long as they don't approach it that way.
But they don't even know how to write it. That's the thing. Like, you can throw special effects around and hire whatever actor du jour is not working at the moment, but they haven't written good. Wait, let me take that back. Aside from the Tobey Maguire movies, the first two, and the Tom Holland movies, all three of them, they really haven't had a good, like, you know, that last Tobey Maguire movie, and pretty much both of the Andrew Garfield movies. I mean, they're batting 50-50 here. You know what I mean? Like, literally 50-50.
I think I would say they're batting 60-40, because I don't think that.
You're right. Actually, if you weigh the numbers correctly, 60-40 is accurate.
Yeah, because I don't think the first Amazing Spider-Man film wasn't bad. I
still stand to reason. I think the first Amazing Spider-Man is better than the first Spider-Man. Like, if I went back and rewatched both of them, and like Spider-Man 1 doesn't hold up as well, and Amazing Spider-Man kind of gets to it a little bit quicker, and the balance is better. Of course, the rest of them are whatever, but like Spider-Man 2 still holds up, really good, masterful. But Spider-Man, the first one, like, it just, there's not much there. Like, it's very hokey and very, like, I don't know, where Spider-Man 2, they figure it out and they like get to the beat.
The first one is very campy, very it has a little bit. It's Sam Raimi meets a little bit of what Schumacher was trying to do in those 2 Batman movies he did. That balance of the darker tone content material and the lighter side of the character.
Did he do 3?
Yeah,
he did 3, but and that's and so yeah, Amazing Spider-Man was decent. I liked that one. 2 was the same problem that Raimi had, which was they wanted to get all these villains and in 3, I think they wanted him to do Venom, but his plan was not Venom because
his plan was always Sandman alone.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know the Venom character as well because that was after I stopped reading, and they're like, no, we want Venom, and so then you got Spider-Man 3, a total just nonsensical film.
Is the word you're looking for.
Yeah, clusterfuck is a good
So
way.
I think 3 and 2 were the bad ones of the live action. The first Sam Raimi movie was a good start, but the second one was an actually great.
The second one was outstanding. Yeah,
great writing, great directing, acting. It was the kind of emotional arc that you want to see a superhero or a main character go through, where they find themselves and they don't, it's not too much, and with a worthy enough villain. And I think that was one of the first of that era where the villain wasn't dastardly evil. Doc Ock in that movie wasn't there was a reason for his madness.
Yeah, he was driven criminally insane. Yeah.
Right. And there's loss and trauma and all that stuff in his origin story as well. So to pivot, go back to wrap this up, I would say 60-40 over 50-50, but that still supports your point, which is if they're going to do live action, they need to go back to where they were with Spider-Man 2 in terms of thinking.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in terms of execution, because I think we can all agree the cinematic world, the hit superhero cinematic world has moved far past that in terms of visual palette.
Sure.
But in terms of character development, storytelling, really giving the character that a reason to root for the hero in question. If you get back to that, then the live action can work. But it is a big question mark for Sony.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting because, like you said, like their track record on trying to do a solid. I mean, No Way Home and everything else got and that trio of movies actually worked out pretty well.
Sure,
but at the same time, they're shaky. I kind of agree with Josh. It could be fun in terms of a nod and a wink at the end, but it's almost like you can't. I don't know if you can actually do that. They basically have to get it right. They have to land the plane.
They really do.
And I think that's it's like the casting, right? It's like when they eventually recast Luke Skywalker, if they keep going back to the old shit, it's that kind of situation where either you're going to hit out the park or it's going to be a complete miss. And it would actually be a cool thing to have a live action at this end in terms of bridging that gap. But at the same time, if they can't do it right, then you're right. I just wouldn't want them to do it at all.
Yeah, I'd rather not. I mean, and you got Shamik Moore already talking about I'm going to lose weight and get ready for whatever. I'm like, dog, you're 30. Stop.
Yeah,
you sound young, but you do not look young, sir.
Like a teenager anymore. And honestly, the voice again, we know that some of that a lot of that is him, but the sound of it is totally altered.
Yeah,
to make him sound younger than
exactly. 30 years old, dog. Stop.
I mean, and even they're talking about Miles Brown, who is actually Afro-Latino off Blackish. And he's around the age. The kid from Stranger Things, they're basically going to look at it's basically like Superman, right? Any white guy with the square jaw, you're going to running for Superman. So for Miles, it'll be like any skinny black kid that's between the ages of
right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could be interesting. I mean, it's also one of those things where it's like you said, do we need it? No, but it's capitalism, so it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Miles Morales is probably really, I mean, not even probably, the character is extremely popular right now between the video games and the movies, and the comics. So, it. I don't think they're going to slow down and in using him. The question will just then, because I think if if the MCU could use him, they would have brought him in by now. I think
I
that's
agree too. I
that's
agree.
the reason why they reference his uncle and everything. They would have tried to figure out a way, even if it was with a TV series, to bring Miles in, to use him as a staple or figure in the story, especially now that they're talking about moving into the mature phase of Peter Parker. He's out of high school now. He's on his own. None of his friends remember who he is, and which I think, given that trilogy, that was a good way of ending the
That was
high
great.
school trilogy.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree.
Into adulthood.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that was the one thing. Yeah, I would say I like that. It was a good way to do it because it's a reset without being a reset, and
Right.
also this version of Peter Parker's been pretty spoiled because he had Iron Man, he got the gadgets, he got
Yeah.
the homies, and so the core principle of Peter Parker is kind of like the down and out loser, but still doing the good thing in spite of all of that.
I have a prediction. I think that Miles will get folded into the MCU post Secret Wars.
I can see it. They did that in the comics.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean that makes perfect sense. That gives them enough time to kind of like pad it out, really think it out. I mean, like in the comics,
I don't know. You think they're going to be able to wrestle that from Sony?
Possibly.
I mean, they're going to do what they did with Tom Holland.
Yeah, they'll do the same thing. They'll just do a joint situation. Like, yo, you guys can do it, but we have say.
Right.
Like we can basically veto anything you say. We do or whatever. But
we'll produce it, but y'all got to do what we tell you to do.
Yeah, I can kind of see that going on. I think that's the other thing I would say is like they just have to figure that out, that balance, because at the end of the day, it's what it is. It's kind of like with the freaking Jon Stewart and Green Lantern. Like you establish this black dude as Green Lantern over a set of years, and then you don't. And then when the big stuff happens, he's like nowhere to be found. And so like. I think if they're going to do Miles, like they now know that they have a good property they can do something with. So now they're not going to fuck it up, or at least they're going to hope not. I mean, honestly, Miles as a TV show wouldn't be that bad. You'd be teenage angsty. Yeah, it could totally work. I mean, I was watching Disney's. I watched the first 2 episodes of American Born Chinese, and that was
how is it?
It's actually pretty good. They did it's a good balance of the teen angsty stuff, but then also Chinese mythology. Plus Michelle Yeoh doing comedy is always a win no matter what. So like every time she does comedy, she's just like a wink and a smile the whole time and just having the time of her life.
I mean, is there anything that woman can't do?
Nope. Absolutely not.
No, there is not.
Absolutely not. So yeah, so it's fun. It's definitely fun. So I can if I was Sony, I'd actually would go through. Maybe I would try to do a series and do something like basically do a series and have fun with it. Like as opposed to like trying to build up this huge, other, movie franchise, which again, capitalism. But yeah,
you're right. I think TV is very profitable. It's at its, probably at its peak of profitability right now. Certainly at a high end. So yeah, it's definitely totally doable to do a YA coming of age story of Miles Morales that's separate from the Spider-Verse canon or continuity and possibly linked to the MCU, but maybe who knows? I think at first, and this is the same thing I said about X-Men, how you and the Fantastic Four and all these new but big staples of Marvel. Like you gotta that's the reason why I know Josh is like, oh no, you should just bring them in. But I'm like, it's the X-Men, it's the Fantastic Four. They need to be on their own for a little bit, and before they
I agree.
Because we haven't seen the best of them in movies yet. You could argue that we saw a little bit of the best of Spider-Man pre-MCU.
Yeah.
We have not seen the best of X-Men in movies.
That's fair.
Or Fantastic Four. And like I was saying, I was like in another group chat, we're talking, and I was like, for X-Men, I'm like, give me a tight 8-episode series focusing around 2 to 3 X-Men, and then not Wolverine. So give me like a
not Wolverine.
like do like Gambit and maybe Storm and like somebody else, and they're in Louisiana, New Orleans, and they have to fight. You weave in Gambit's voodoo situation
the
and
Guild.
And the Thieves Guild, and like do something on a base level that introduces the world that they're here, and then tie that into other things, and that way you don't have to go. Like you said, we don't need Wolverine in another movie or a TV show, but we know
he can still exist.
Exactly.
We've seen these things where the big name characters have been scaled down and used in other ways, but they've been. The best example is how Bruce Wayne and the Justice League and all those characters are used in not just in Young Justice. I can't believe I'm going to say it, but also in Titans as well. Because despite the many problems Titans had, they did use, after the first season, they used the existence of Bruce Wayne very well in that world without having to. I mean, they eventually muffed it up, but they still at first used it well. But I think even if Wolverine's presence is similar to how, let's say, Bats and Superman and all of the mainstays are utilized in Young Justice, I think that is different than having him the central protagonist. Mm-hmm. He can be a supporting character. He doesn't need to be the central protagonist. Yeah. That's the difference.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And you're right. I think it's like you just need to, because even with Miles, right? If they extended Miles into the world, into the real world, whatever, it actually would be better if we already meet Miles with having all the stuff that just happened to him. So it's like, we've been like kind of with like Spider-Man, right? We already know the Uncle Ben story. We already know this, So it's like, let's just kind of like continue that. We don't need another origin story for Miles. Like if they were going to extend this into the, whatever, it would actually be more fun if like we cut to Miles and he's basically in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Vision School, and it's the live action, and then it just continues the story. Like that would actually be pretty fresh. But at the same time, like you said, like we just need them to be existing already in the world. And I think like the Millar world, actually, he's doing like a crossover event with all his books he's done over the last 10 years or 15 years. And all he's really doing is showing that they all exist in the same universe. And so some will cross over, some won't, but like there are certain ones that will, but it's just saying that in this thing I've created, even though I put all these separated stories, I can show that they exist in the world, and as opposed to they don't have to cross over. Like when there's an X-Men event and there's Avengers and all this other stuff, we have like, 20 different books, everyone's crossing over. It's kind of annoying, but in the best parts of Spider-Man's world, when you're writing him, there's times where like, Spider-Man's chilling and all of a sudden Beast shows up. And I was like, oh, Beast, what are you doing here? He's like, I have a lecture at yada, 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 and blah, 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 blah. Oh, man, that's cool. Let's go stop this villain real quick. And then he goes off on his world. So I would rather have that, and that would be more fun, especially for X-Men and for Fantastic Four. Like, Reed Richards is watching the intergalactic shit that was going on in Avengers 1. And then you're like, hey, how come they didn't stop it? He's like, oh, because they were off on another planet doing some other shit.
Right.
So I think having them exist in that world, and I actually agree with the D'Angelo, like I would much rather have 10 years of X-Men stories and then they all collide, 10 years from now, that's fine. Or 5, it's capitalism. But like, just let them be.
And that's my point. Like, we if it would be great to get the classic X-Men storytelling before we move into the crossover stuff, or they exist in this larger tapestry of things, because we haven't. I just think the retconning is not worth it, and B, they have such a rich universe all on their own that they don't need. I think you could literally only read X-Men and never read any other Marvel anything, and you would have vast knowledge of this entire universe of characters, because X-Men is kind of a mini universe within Marvel's bigger universe. I guess all of the character stories are, but I feel like the X-Men, that translates to not just, because for a while I remember, even when I wasn't reading Marvel comics, I knew who the X-Men were. I knew who Wolverine was, who Professor X was, who Magneto was. I knew these characters. Have never read a book about them, but I knew who they were because they were all over pop culture in the 80s and 90s, and obviously the cartoons. So I just think if the MCU plays into that and allows them to be themselves, that eventually you create another reason to get excited for the next crossover. Because I don't think that excitement still exists. It's kind of mechanical and like, oh yeah, we got Kang Dynasty and Secret Wars coming, but it's probably just going to be like the last Marvel rump. But this one, if you have something totally separate that is going to collide with the established, with the Old Testament, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have a point. You guys do have a valid point, because hearkening back all the way to the original Secret Wars, when they get dumped on the planet on Battle World, the X-Men are largely estranged from everyone. Like, they know that the others exist. And you had situations like, Beast joining the Avengers, even though he was an original X-Men. So the Avengers know that the X-Men exist, but they really didn't cross-pollinate at all before Secret Wars. You might have like a Human Torch Spider-Man thing, and they had specific things, like they would have a Marvel team up so that it was designated as that's the area where those guys cross-pollinate. It wasn't comic book to comic book. So when they land on Battle World, the X-Men are like, Cap, of course, is very much on his take charge shit. And the X-Men are like, yeah, we don't report to you, old man. We're going to be over here doing our thing. Y'all ain't never really checked for us before. Why would we follow any of you now? And so there's that instant division of, we're mutants. You ain't never checked for us before. Suddenly, you want to beat Dr. Doom, and now we're your guys. Like, we got to fall in line. Yeah, it's not going down like that.
And I think that's the thing where it's like, even with if they do that and set it up like the comics, right? X-Men have their own world. Cosmic has their own world. Fantastic Four has their own world that kind of bleeds into Cosmic. Then it kind of makes that, then that's fun because it allows things to settle. Because I would love at least like 4 to 5 X-Men projects that doesn't cross with anyone else. Maybe it's a maybe it's a cutscene or whatever here and there, but it doesn't have to be anything crazy.
Yeah, because I think that if they did want to keep them in the MCU proper, and they go with a storyline like, okay, Professor X and Magneto for all this time have been working together to keep mutants a secret, but there was a break. There's some kind of break, some kind of event that causes that to go astray. So now you have the Brotherhood, you have the X-Men. Now, why would humans all of a sudden be, when you have Captain America and you have the Hulk and all these people existing, why would they be so threatened by mutants? Well, why was the Neanderthal threatened by Homo sapien?
Yep, it's pretty much high evolutionary. His whole shtick.
And so mutants would still fall into the line of being discriminated against, being not being trusted, and ultimately the biggest thing is the bulk of humanity fearing what mutant kind represents, which is, as Professor X says, the next stage of evolution.
Homo superior.
Yeah, which if you get Homo superior, then eventually Homo sapien is going to go away.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it'll be supplanted.
It will be supplanted either by force or by breeding out.
All right, you guys have sold me. All right, fine. I
mean, we got to stay on fire. We need to be writing Feige and getting some contracts pulled up. I mean, we're doing better than the current Marvel writers.
Different pod, brother. Different pod.
I know, right?
But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say pivoting back to Into the Spider-Verse, that ending was not what I saw coming. Like I thought, I was so wrapped up in what was going on that while I did realize that there was a certain amount of time that had passed, it didn't feel like that was where the movie was going to end. Like it could have just kept going and I'd have been fine.
Yeah, that's why I agree with you, because that's why I picked the time that I did to use the restroom. I thought, oh, this is a downtime. They're about to move into or finish up. This is clearly the third act, but whatever. And I left, came back, it was over. So
nailed it.
Yeah, I had that same feeling, but yeah, everything. I didn't miss anything significant.
Yeah, I also like that they didn't have a cut scene at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was dope. Like I like that they did that to kind of break that up. Like they announced that before the movie was like dropped. Like, hey guys, you're good. And it's funny because even though people knew that, they still waited anyways because Marvel's got us trained.
Yeah, they got you guys trained. I retired from that after, I don't even remember the last movie I stayed for the credits.
Oh no, I always stay for the credits.
Yeah,
I
stay for the credits for every movie I watch. Yeah. That's just me. Because
that's very respectful to the artists whose names appear on that screen. Yes. And I'm not being facetious. I'm being very serious.
After spotting a friend's name in the credits for a Mission Impossible movie, I stay for all the credits.
Yeah,
that's great. That's dope.
Yeah, our teachers used to say that too. They're like, the only people that stay for the credits are your friends and family. And so, it's cool though, because I to that point, like I like seeing it where like now some form of my friends are usually in, some to capacity of some of these movies now. So it is kind of cool to wait to see like, oh shit, there's that person, that person, that.
Absolutely.
So that's cool.
Barring not knowing that, I'm out. Once those credits are rolling.
Well, that's the thing, you never know. So I didn't know my homie was going to be in Mission Impossible. I just happened to that she worked on Mission Impossible. I just happened to be sitting there yakking it up with a friend of mine. Turned to the screen and I saw her name. I was like, "Oh shit, yo!" Immediately texted her like, "Yo, son."
Man, no, that's dope. That's dope.
All right, cool. I think that kind of covers it. We even put in our final words without having to say final words.
Yeah, I know, right?
So. I guess we'll follow this up. The week of March 24th in 2024.
I know. Yeah. And it's funny because, for how long these things take, and they kind of just went all the way through, which is smart. We're still in it. Yeah, they only have the choice, but also, we're still in the middle of the writer's strike. What are we at? Week 7 now? And does not look like it's slowing down anytime soon. So
it's like the history repeating itself, and hopefully we'll meet here on March 24th, 2024. I mean, with the air pollution, and it looks like Armageddon in New York. Who knows what the next year?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Exactly. Wow. But
leave you with that to think about. I told you I was unfriendly.
But yeah, thanks for rocking with us. Go see it if you haven't seen it. We did all the spoilers, but go see it again. I actually need to. I do want to go check it out. And
I'm going to see it again for sure.
Probably, I'm trying to do it. Maybe is it in IMAX? It is in IMAX, right?
Not anymore.
Oh, it's right out. Yeah. But yeah, I want to.
You got a week. You got 1 week to see whatever it is you're going to see in a premium theater, brother.
Yeah.
For the entire summer. After that, you're rolling dice.
Yep. Pretty much. But yeah, talk to you guys soon, and we out. Peace.
Hasta.